On today's Yarn Spotlight, yarn expert Clara Parkes is here to tell us the difference between woolen versus worsted. So what is all that about?
Well, in the world of spinning, there are two paths that you can take, woolen spinning and worsted spinning.
And we're talking about worsted spinning as a spinning style, right? Not worsted weight.
Exactly. That's the first step of the confusion, is that people are like, worsted? Does it worsted spinning or worsted weight? So woolen spinning is the first step. Even if you were going to go one step further, it all starts with woolen spinning. And what happens is you take all these fibers, which need to be prepared, sort of like sifting flour, to separate each fiber from each other fiber. And so you run it through a giant machine with teeth and combs, and they like pull, not teeth, cones, and the teeth are around the cones, and they pull the fibers apart from one another. And at the end spills out this gorgeous billowing sheet of fibers that are sort of kind of jumbled all over the place. What you would do if you wanted to woolen spin is you would just peel off little strips of that, and then you would start to twist it.
And is this kind of the more traditional way of spinning, or sort of the older way of spinning?
Yeah, kind of the old lumpy bumpy grandma's yarn sort of a way, like a farm yarny sort of a way. And it gives you a very fuzzy, very soft, slightly jumbled effect.
So this is sort of an example of a woolen spun, and you can see sort of the fuzzy blurriness of the stitches.
Yes, especially after you wash it and all those jumbled fibers really relax and kind of bloom into place. So woolen spun yarns are great for a lot of things. You know, you want big, cuddly, cozy sweaters and garments, things like that.
But what's the alternative?
Well, the alternative, and it probably sprang up from the fact that woolen spun yarns are great for a lot of things, but along the fiber surface, the yarn surface rather, are all these little loose fibers sticking out. And the more fiber ends you have sticking out of a yarn, the greater the invitation to pill.
Ah, the dreaded P word.
Yes. And so what they would do next is they would take that gorgeous sheet of fibers, right, that came off of the machine, and then they would run them through another device with sharp metal teeth, like combs. And they're going to comb out all the shorter or clumpy, irregular fibers and give you, it's really like the difference between brushing your hair with a soft bristle brush really quickly and combing it. What you get is much more orderly, consistent length fibers, which when you spin them into yarn, it gives you a smoother, slightly denser, stronger, more better wearing yarn.
Where all those little hairs are tamed down into the surface of the yarn.
Yep.
Or into the structure of the yarn itself. And both of these are worsted spun yarns in front of us?
Both of these are worsted spun yarns, and this is kind of, it gives you an example of how you can take the smoothness of worsted spun yarns and you can use that in the spinning as a design element. Here's an example here. It's two plies that have been twisted together at a very perpendicular angle. Tremendous bounce, look at that. But also, with those plies, with the smoothness, with the clarity of the twist, you get these deep ply shadows.
Sort of almost like a string of pearls.
Exactly like a string of pearls. And when you knit it up in stockinette, those shadows show up in this sort of rippling, pebbly, cobblestoned kind of a look. Garter stitch, it does the same thing. They really pop out. Or if you wanted to do cables, you can see how it's the texture of the yarn sort of subtracts a little bit from the three-dimensionality of your stitches.
Almost competes a little.
Almost competes a little. It's really up to you. If you see a garment with lots of stitch detail but you want to tone it down a little bit, you would use a yarn that has some shadows in it, and that will just naturally tone down the definition of what you're doing.
And then here, this is another worsted spun yarn. It's thinner, obviously, but it's also more plies?
Yep, this one has 4 plies.
Okay.
And what we're doing here is the yarn is stepping out of the way. We've got 4 very smooth plies, everything's smooth and consistent, and you're letting the stitches give you the definition.
Oh, beautiful. This is very interesting. And so is worsted kind of a newer style of spinning, or would you say that they're...
I'd say they're pretty similar in age.
Interesting. Well, just more choices always so that you can match your yarn to your project.
That's right.
Well, thanks so much, Clara.